and sharing comments today.
Great. All right, so I want to kick us off. I want to welcome you all to the first of 2026, the first business to business meeting here at Disability in North Carolina. We're thrilled to have you. You're in for a treat today to learn more about one of our incredible disability-owned business enterprises. She's certified through the national certification through our organization called Disability In. She is creative and an incredible lady. She is also a member of our board of directors here at Disability In, so we're excited about that. But just again, want to welcome you all. And for those that are not as familiar with us, my name is Beth Butler Fatal. I'm executive director of Disability in North Carolina, and with me is our operations director, Pat Kuehl. And this is a monthly opportunity that we provide our members, our sponsor companies, but also gives us an opportunity to reach people that may just want to come and listen and learn more about who we are as an organization. We are a private nonprofit here in North Carolina. We support employers across the state that are interested and committed to creating accessible cultures for everybody. And that means not just architectural barriers, like we'll hear today about accommodations, and man, there are numerous types of accommodations that people with disabilities need to be successful in their careers. But it's more than that, right? It's not just about the barriers around architecture, but it is about attitudes, right? And how we create environments where we're comfortable having conversations like the one we're going to have today. I continue to have opportunities to talk with people, people that are seasoned professionals that happen to have disabilities, but yet they still struggle, right, with disclosing that disability or with asking for an accommodation. So we are here to walk alongside our business partners and our companies that and help them grow in confidence in navigating these types of conversations. So if, as I said, if you are new, if you want to learn more, we are welcome. It is 2026, and we are looking for opportunities, whether that's consulting one-on-one with your organization or getting you guys to join as members. We'd love that. And with that comes some benefits to your organization. So maybe you have a business resource group or an employee resource group, and you're looking for programming for 2026. We're here, and we can again develop whatever it is that you're looking for, whatever topics are of interest. If you joined us in December, our last B2B was a perfect topic around, and again, one of the things that we're hearing so much about now is this return to work, right? And return to the workplace, and all of the conversations happening about that, having been on a remote work type of setting for years now, right? Pre-COVID, post-COVID, and now everyone coming back to the office. And what does that look like as it relates to people with disabilities? And companies are kind of getting those policies out and brushing them off a little bit and saying, gosh, how do we navigate this? So we are here to listen and to learn with you and to connect you with our business networks that are too walking through, right, these transitions. And so we want to be a resource for you. So with that, again, I want to welcome you. I want to encourage you as well to engage with each other during today's presentation through the chat. And I know that we will be watching that for questions or comments. So please, this type of interaction is what we look for. We want you to be free to open up conversation, ask questions, engage with each other again through that chat feature on the Zoom platform. And I want to also just introduce you to Dr. Ann McIntosh. She is the CEO and founder of Safe and Clear. I love the way she kind of presents her her history or her kind of the beginning of this company. She turned an uh-oh moment into an aha moment as it relates to communication barriers and accessible communication. She is an incredible human being, and we're just thrilled to have her serving on our board of directors. But Anne, I want to thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year, everyone. Pat is going to be running the PowerPoint for me, so I do have the chat open and I'm able to see any question. I'm a college professor by training, and so I like feedback from the audience, and I really want to engage you today. I'm going to go through this PowerPoint. Whether we get to the end of it or not is irrelevant, but I want you to see you in this and to ask questions. Today is about helping you. We're at the beginning of the year. What are some goals that you have for your company, and how can we help facilitate getting you to think in ways that maybe you had not thought about before? So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on how you can expand accessibility to communication. So that's one thing that we do at Safe and Clear is we work in communication accessibility, making sure that accessibility is there. Why? So that you can increase understanding and comprehension with what I call intentionality, so that you can go from point A to point B, whatever your point A is and whatever your point B is. So this is really about you, and I really want to help you guys out. So please engage with me. Let me know if you have problems, if you have challenges, if you have some pain points that you've just not been able to push through, and we'll see if we can talk about those. So one of the first things we do in any communication thing, if you're having a company, is you want to make sure that you're clear with your agenda with your audience, whether it's a potential client, patient, or customer, and you want to customize that to them. So I've given you an example here because we work with dental schools, we work with dental hygiene programs, and we work with dental practices. So we have these nice looking healthy teeth up here to help make it, and don't have more than about 3 or 5 points, because anything more than 5 just gets lost in the clutter, and it's not something that you can do in a 30-minute or 1 hour. I want to frame the problem or the challenge that your business, if you're offering a product or a service, but lots of times we try to say, here's a solution to your problem, and we don't let the customer give us an opportunity to add additional information or to present the problem from a different perspective that they may have. So as you frame that problem and solution, you want to give that customer an opportunity to do that. So I'm going to role model that for you right now. If you are a company and you provide a product or a service, what is that product or service? How do you fill a need? What is your solution to those problems? And I'm just going to watch the chat here and see what comes up there. What problem does your product or your service solve for other people?
So Beth is chiming in.
Yep, so coming in, so disability in North Carolina helped to solve compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, walking alongside businesses. Stephanie is with Pfizer, and she said that they serve patients on a daily basis with vaccines and other medications, so medical dispensing. Leanna, she's with North Carolina Biotech, and they connect industry partners and educators to identify solutions to fill workplace gaps, anywhere from technical hard skills to soft skills, which will be communication. Okay. Am I waiting on anyone else to pop in what they do? Today is interactive. It's not a spectator sport today with business to business. Do we have any others? Steve, good to see you, Steve. Reducing cost and increasing sustainability while driving simplification on how to procure and manage IT solutions, including hardware, software, and services. So, Jake Kent, you and Steve may want to pair up that you are both in the IT. Okay. All right. So you have a solution. Back up 1 second, Pat. You have a solution. Thank you. You have a solution where your product or your service will remove those barriers, where it eases those pain points. But what you also want to do is make sure that you alert your potential customer base that they can increase their market share and that they can improve profitability. These are two things that all businesses are trying to do. They're trying to gain more customers or have larger sales with their existing customer base so that they can improve profitability. So know that those are things that they're going for. You've got to weave that into the conversation before they spend money to buy your product or to buy your service. How is this going to help them? They know how it's going to help you, but how is that going to help them with their business? So I just mentioned those two parts. So for example, to accommodate people with disability, a lot of business owners think, gee whiz, this is going to cost me money, instead of realizing that people with disability is a huge untapped market that is in the billions of dollars. And so that's an easy customer that's not being served now. And that can help you to improve profitability on that. Okay, Pat, please, next slide. Thank you, ma'am. I'm always upfront with the learning objectives or the goals, because that is important for me as a facilitator or as a business owner, so that I can understand better who my client is, my customer, and their perspective. So first of all, in this line of businesses, we have to own up to and recognize our own biases and concerns with inclusivity and accessibility. Where is it that I lack understanding on that? And do my biases dovetail with the biases of my customers so that I can see it from their perspective? I can understand that from their perspective. And that's really important there, to identify the creative communication strategy so that we can incorporate that inclusion. And we can do that by removing barriers. We've talked a lot about removing barriers through the B2B that we have here. But I also want to say we need to add pathways and we need to add solutions for that easier communication. And those are some gaps that we have not done in the past. But come 2026, we can all add that in to some of the goals that we maybe have set for our business. A lot of times people want to know, what is your story? So we tell our story. Many people here have heard my story more than once, but from a business owner who is trying to reach the audience of new customers, new patients, new clients, it's not your story that they really want to hear. It's their story. They want to hear their story in this story. So what I say is, it is a composite we co-created. Your story and my story come together for these interactions. You want to make sure that you include their story in. And many times going on people's websites, companies' websites, they'll have a profile there of the history of the company and how that got started. And I always say that's easy, low-hanging fruit. You should at least go in and see what's been made available so that you can understand that. All right, next slide, please, ma'am. What problem did your product or service serve? Does it solve? Many times you and I know that, but where we maybe missed the gap is, do you actually have a solution that is in search of a problem? That is something that I have come to learn as being CEO of Safe and Clear. I have a wonderful product that solves a problem. The issue and the challenge is that people don't recognize that they have the problem that I have identified. Let me give you an example here. So we sell clear masks so that people can lip read, so that they can see facial expressions, and so that they can understand. I was on a virtual call with the president of an association that dealt with retirement community and assisted living centers. So we think of seniors. most seniors over the age of 65 have some level of hearing loss. Would you agree with that? Just part of the aging process, our eyes kind of grow dim and our hearing. The president told me that that was not an issue, that they don't have an issue with hearing loss in the assisted retirement. So if he didn't think that we had that issue, I had a solution to something that he did not see as a problem. So that was the first barrier that I had to realize is I've got to educate and have people come to the understanding that this is a problem that they have and try to help them connect dots that they have. So if somebody doesn't think that they've got a problem, then my solution is not going to, they're not going to buy the product. Next slide. So for all of us, many of us have taken communication classes in college, or we have taken professional development where they have focused on some aspect of communication, listening, active listening, conflict resolution, mediation, negotiation, any and all those things. And through that, you maybe have heard that 93% of the meaning stems from nonverbal cues, which is why I really don't like to use the telephone. I like to do Zoom meetings, WebEx, Teams meetings, so that I can see people, because so much of that meaning comes from the nonverbal. And that's really important, especially when you're in a crisis type communication, meaning let's say a medical situation, going into the emergency department, people might be in pain. So being able to read that pain and to communicate with them through that will be very, very important. So many of us will have a slide similar to this, or a capability statement, or a flyer, or a brochure that highlights and just kind of check the boxes of who we are and what we do. You may need more than one. So for
Hey,
a communicator, we talk about being the world's first FDA
hang on a second.
I mentioned that because
Last name.
we came up because of COVID.
It's a good question. Sparrow.
In 2012, so we were well before COVID. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Yes, ma'am. I have a windshield claim I need to file.
Yeah.
And
Excuse me,
I
and we
called
have
in
some,
earlier.
okay. Ann, are you unmuted?
So many of us have certifications that may or may not be important to your customer or your client. If you are speaking about supplier diversity, if you're speaking to the supplier diversity person, the more boxes there you can check, then you're going to want to list that. So Safe and Clear, for example, we are a woman-owned small business, WOSB. And for those of you who are women and don't have that, that is a lengthy process. It took me 18 months to prove to the Small Business Administration, SBA, that I was female. So that was quite a challenge. Certified disability-owned business enterprise through National Disability In. I'm also certified here in North Carolina as a small business enterprise, as well as a certified statewide uniform certificate, which is kind of like under HUD. So there may be different ones that you can do. They do take time. Most of these are free, and you can fill that out. If you have any questions about any of them, I'll be happy to answer any question. Does this help you get sales? I don't know the answer to that. I cannot specifically say that we have received certain sales from this, but it certainly does not hurt if you're in the supplier diversity and you're trying to make inroads on that can help you out. Do be real clear about what your mission is. And I think that your mission is going to be different for your different audiences. So we have a medical audience, we have a dental audience, we have a consumer audience. So we change that mission statement to meet those needs there. So I have different variations of that. We're really big into America being first, American products. So we have this, but we also have the Americans with Disabilities Act behind us. So we say that ours is not ADA compliant, but ADA effective, and that helps to encourage lip reading and facial expression for deaf, hard of hearing, and even deaf, blind, deaf, low vision people. Again, picking up on some facial cues and things like that. All right, next slide, please, ma'am. I think that visualization is huge for those communicators who are visual, but just having a picture worth 1,000 words. What is your product? What is your service versus what are your typical competitors? So for me, we have the clear map and then we have the conventional map. So that is just a picture that I hope stimulates conversation so that people can go through and get that. Depending on what kind of a business you're in, you may or may not have what I call the differentiator slide. And this can be also put in a brochure, can be up on your website. If you do LinkedIn articles, if you do social media, you could have something like this that will be very, very effective. And if you're not sure and you need help with some ideas, then any of us will be happy to try to help you with that. I always like to get feedback from different people to say, what do you think of this? And to help it out. They have done studies and they've asked kids, who is the better doctor? And people will point to the person with the clear mask and say, that's the better doctor. Who's nicer, Dr. A or Dr. B? They'll say Dr. B is not as nice as Dr. A. All just based on just the looks of this, just the optics of that. All right, next slide, please. So what is your difference? You have so much competition. All of us have a lot of competition. You've really got to identify what your difference is. So for Safe and Clear, we're currently not using AI chatbot. When you call our phone number, you will get a live human being that says, hello, this is Safe and Clear. How may I help you? And those are posting their answers. We also have texting. You can text our number. So if somebody is deaf or hard of hearing and doesn't want to use the voice phone, that they can use that. So I'm going to take a moment here. I don't know if you've got pen and paper out, but the difference between what you're currently doing and what you could be doing in terms of what is your difference there? What could you do? To get feedback from your team member, colleagues, and even if you have a couple of customers who are really good and helpful, and they really got your back, and ask them, what do you think the differences are between using my company and a competing company? And to be that differentiator, you want to think about communication inclusivity or accessibility in ways that some of your competitors are not currently doing. And I always say, think about things that are not going to take up a lot of time or a lot of money. What can we just do differently that's no cost on that? Many of us at Disability In, we have a disability, but I want you to think about broadening out the accessibility beyond your particular disability. So for example, I am deaf, but I need to make my business more communication accessible to people who are blind or have visual impairment. And I have in front of me a business card that I received back in October. This business card has Braille on it. And so I was thinking, that's something that I can do to some of my business cards is I can add some Braille on it. Be a good way to extend myself to the deaf blind community because I've really not been serving them as well as I have the culturally deaf or the hard of hearing community. Mobility impairment and improve. There may be some things that you can do there that you really hadn't thought about. And if you can pick the brains of people who have those other disabilities, that can be something else. If I find out that somebody has dyslexia, I like to try to pick their brain. What could I do to make things easier for you to see and to read and to understand? And I'm always educated on what those pieces can be. All right, next slide, please. We say that accessible communication is a good thing, but you really have to bring the value to the person because they have limited dollars to spend. Yes, this would be great, but at the end of the day, I have to show a black bottom line and not a red bottom line. So going back to dental, if I'm doing this to dental, I say that this reduces patient stress. And then I ask them, what happens when a patient is stressed? And the dentist might say, well, a procedure that really should take about 10 minutes ends up taking about 40 minutes because we have to stop the procedure, we have to calm the patient down. Sometimes we have to give them more sedative, and we really should just be in and out in 10 minutes, but we end up having to block 40 minutes or an hour's time. So that is something. To enhance that rapport with visible smile, we're all the time seeing on social media and other places that we need to be kind to each other. Well, you can't see the kindness behind a covered mask. So being able to see those visual smiles is so important. And many of us, for our profile picture, we like to show ourselves smiling to other people. When we smile, we're actually bolstering trust factor. So if you take a look at trust matrix, they're like people who don't smile, we don't trust them as much. And then we talk about that clear communication, it elevates the care quality. It makes me look like I'm more interested in you and I'm more likely to want to really solve your problem, that I can listen to that. Removing barriers, I ask people what they perceive to be the barriers, and if there's something that I can do to remove some of those barriers to help out the businesses. So anyway, facilitating face-to-face interaction is really important as we deal with seniors because they like the interaction, they like that face-to-face. Many times we're talking to people, they want to do a lot of digital, a lot of texting and social media stuff. But currently, the baby boomers, we still outnumber the young adults. That hasn't shifted yet. So just wanted to throw that out there in terms of statistics. Next slide, please, ma'am. In the 14 years that I've done business, and I think all of you have found this out too, but I've just kind of written this down. Every business relationship and every customer business is different. So we can put together a model, we can put together a procedure, but they are all different. And when we acknowledge those differences, those nuances, and we treat people based on those differences, they take notice, they like it, and it warms them up to more of what we're doing. That's really important because generalizations, while they might be helpful, they might not always be entirely accurate for everybody. So we have to understand that and to be able to pivot and to customize and to always differentiate, because I've got to outsmart my competitors, especially my competitors that are using AI, so that my customers will notice. So we do have competition, but they say, you guys answer the phone, or you guys, I can put the order in and it ships out the same day. So those are things that we have heard feedback on that they like, that we do. And so we know that we need to continue to do those things. Something that Safe and Clear has been doing more of is partnering, collaborating. We really try to build relationships, but not just about selling this product or this service, but what are other people doing? What are their goals and their mission? And can we help facilitate that? So several of you, I've had meetings, it's like, how can I help you with your business and what we're doing? So those good business practices there, while we don't use the word DEI necessarily, we do incorporate the variation, the wide variance that we have, or diversity. We try to make it inclusive, not just to remove the barrier, but to actually actively include untapped market and so forth. And that will help us to get higher customer satisfaction so that you can get those future appointment bookings and so forth. I want to stop here for a second and just ask if anything I've said resonates with you, that you want to point out that you've written down that is different with your business with communication. Just wanted to take just a moment here before we move to the next slide. Any feedback?
I mean, everything resonates with what you've presented. You know, it's so hard for small businesses to be recognized, so that differentiating factor is so important. And then just being able to be authentic with your customers and listening to them and showing them that, yes, their problem is what you're trying to solve. You're not there just for yourself. So all of the things I think were exceedingly well presented, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, because big box stores are not going to do that. Bank of America and Wells Fargo is not your small town bank. Lowe's Home Depot is not your local hardware store. So yes, that is what a small business can bring to the table that larger institutions cannot. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, next slide, please. So that clear communication and understanding also is, how do you circle back? Some people use customer CRM. They might use HubSpot. They might use Salesforce. They might put things on a 30-day call cycle or 60 or 90-day call cycle. Others might use a newsletter. One of the things that we do at Safe and Clear is we produce a monthly newsletter using Constant Contact. People can unsubscribe at any time. It is free, and we keep it short and simple, but we give them some education. We highlight deaf leaders across the country. We do some other things just to kind of let people know that we're here, what's going on. If we run in a sale or a discount, we'll put that in. But it's just a way of touching the customer in a non-intrusive way that they can go through and read it at their leisure, or they can delete it. But that is something that we do to reach out. I don't know, and I'll ask this question here. How many of your businesses have social media accounts? Do all of you have Facebook? Do you have Instagram? Do you have, I call it Twitter X? Are you doing those? Do you have email listings? Do you have newsletters? Do you find your customers interacting with the social media? You do? Okay, if you're dealing directly with consumers. So we deal with a lot of businesses, and we don't find that hospitals and healthcare systems are on Instagram. So who are the customers we serve, and the people who order our masks, procurement, and the people who pay for masks, these are all different audiences, and they're not necessarily the ones that are on the social media. So that can be a little bit tricky. I noticed that social media now is really not getting a good rating from healthcare clinicians and some other kinds of things. So Stephanie, tell me how you use social media to promote new commercials for product. How does that work for you guys?
So, and for us, it comes through our Pfizer Global Network. So we particularly, our site doesn't do any marketing for that. Because Pfizer's so large, they have a group up at the Global that does all that. But they promote on Instagram, Facebook, any new products that may be coming out, or just promoting Pfizer in general for what they do for patients.
Do you aim those toward patients who could use those, or do you aim them toward medical providers?
It's probably both. It's more of a generic baseline.
Okay. Okay. Oh, wonderful. Next slide, please, ma'am. So in addition to having your mission, in addition to understanding what your product or service solves, the pain point for other people, you have your mission, you have what you solve, but then it's like, what is that value? And that value piece kind of goes back to that differentiator we're talking about, because there are competition to yours. So you got product A, product B, and product C. Many people think money, which one is cheaper? For some people, that is a metric. That is a deciding factor for them. They're going to go for the bottle of ketchup that is a penny cheaper than something else. But for other people, it's that value. So if I'm trying to stay away from high fructose corn syrup and I want to get something that's made with stevia or with honey, will I be willing to pay for that? So that's where we get the advertising of organic or no high fructose corn syrup. They're trying to point out the value to justify the cost if there is any price differentiator between your product. So one of the things that we're doing at Safe and Clear, for example, is if you look at the cost of our product looks like it costs more than the covered conventional mask. But in actuality, I make the argument, no, our product is cheaper. It's actually a lot cheaper. If you take a patient coming into the ER, emergency department, and they don't understand the questions being asked of them, then the person on the ER side may have to do more testing, more diagnostics, which take up more time and money. And then that follows the patient through x-ray or through surgery. When they go to post-op, do they understand post-op instruction? Do they understand physical therapy? Do they understand clearly how to take the medication? Because if not, and they have what we call an unsafe discharge, and they're brought back into the healthcare system 3 days later, guess what? Insurance company isn't going to pay because insurance company is going to say, hospital, you discharged that patient unsafely. So this is on you. So if I follow that patient all the way through, that can be hundreds or thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, whereas if they had bought $1 mask, they could have saved themselves that. So they can save money and increase their profitability. But those are all different budgets. So it's like I have to get high up enough at the C level to explain that to healthcare, saying, you think you're saving money initially, but it's turning around and biting you throughout the time span that a patient is in the healthcare system or even in home healthcare. All right. So that's the value that we can bring there. For dentists, they're looking at those dollars there. But it's like if you have a patient who had high anxiety and they make an appointment, but then they cancel so late that you can't fill that spot, you've already paid somebody to be at the front desk, you've already paid the dental hygienist and the dental assistant, but you don't have a paying customer coming in, but your overhead goes on. Or even if they don't do a late cancellation, they're just simply a no-show because they lose their nerve right before coming into the appointment. They don't come in. Do they associate high anxiety and say if you use a clear mask, you're likely to get a customer in, have that patient stay with you, have that patient to come back, and so forth? They don't make the connection between high anxiety and that clear mask of being able to calm them down and settle them down. Just being able to see that reassuring smile on the dentist or the dental hygienist face. Another thing that kind of blows my mind is, how many dental hygienists do you know who have crappy teeth? They have beautiful teeth, right? They're clean, they're white, they're sharp. And what do? They cover it all up. I'm like, people, that's not good for business. You need to be showcasing your pearly whites and your healthy smile. All right, Pat, next slide, please. What do you have at your front desk? We talked about, Beth did about remote work, but if you have a front office, what do you have there to welcome the people in? Sometimes you go in and you see wrapped candy. Wrapped candy is cheap to keep people there. And it's like, is that the differentiator? Somebody else doesn't have it? Do you have Kleenexes there? Do you have pens? Do you have clear masks? Do you have your business card there? What about cough drops during flu and cold season? If people can see and recognize a Hallmark cough drop there, do you offer bottles of water and so forth there, or a water machine? These are ways that you can cater to the customer, to your patient, in ways to be like, oh, well, thank you, that's nice. Or even if they say no thank you to the bottle of water, but just the fact that you have it there and offer it is a differentiator. What do these different mechanisms do other than cost you money, which I think the ROI on that is going to be much greater. You're lowering their defenses. And when you lower their defenses, they're going to be able to hear you better. You're able to show that you're compassionate. You're opening up pathway for interpersonal face-to-face communication. People are really going to take notice of that. People are going to say thank you. You're going to be able to start that conversation. You're looking for those ways that you can come in and have those conversations. And in those conversations, you can ask those questions. You can probe so that you can identify the needs and the issues, and then figure out what they say and how they're doing it. And you can use those and take that into account when you are talking back with them. You're building that culture, not just with your team, but you're building it with your customers and your patients and your clients. And when we build that culture with them, we're building that partnership. Partnerships are so critically important because there will always be somebody who comes in and will be able to offer whatever you offer in terms of a product or a service a little bit cheaper or something else. But you've got to create that value to where they say, I'm going to stay where I am. Thank you, but no thank you. I'm happy with where we are and who we have. All right, next slide, please. I just say that if your business happens to be public facing, consider adding these new additions. Just give it a try. See what it does for your business. Braille business card, Braille menus, Braille brochure. Less than 10% of blind and visually impaired people know Braille, but it could be because there's just not a lot of Braille out there. And if we had the Braille out there more, maybe more people could use the Braille and use the Braille. There are getting to be some pretty good AI-generated sign language avatars. You might want to dabble in that. There's also some Spanish avatars if you are trying to speak to the Hispanic community. Caption videos, I'm really big on that. Make an option for voice or text or email. The chat used to be very good for that, but not so much anymore because AI has taken over the chat. I was on a chat call 2 days ago to get my washing machine serviced. 25 minutes into the chat, I had been turned over 4 times before we got disconnected. And I did not have my washing machine service call. So I would say, options for that. In-person meetings are phenomenal, but also Zoom, Teams, Webinar, WebEx, Google Meet, those are wonderful to do. And then have you considered customers that are not in your business arena, that are in other areas? For example, have you looked at Civitan, Rotary, Lions Club, F3, and the different chambers? They may be something that you might be interested in to take a look at. And then virtual business hours. I will be attending a virtual business hour on Friday. I don't know these people. It's through alignable.com, which is a competitor to LinkedIn. And I'm going to give that a try and see what happens there. And I have seen some people do holiday business hours in terms of networking, and that might be wonderful too. None of us really like a hard sale for the first, and for the second, it's like in our face because they haven't gone through the appropriate networking and to build that relationship first. All right, next slide, please. Remind people at the end what it is that you're doing. So for us, we're revolutionizing mass protection without compromising communication accessibility. We are blocking germs, but not blocking communication. And that helped during flu and cold season. We've got people that are unvaccinated. We've got vaccination rates going down. We've got measles popping up. We've got flu. We have cold. We've got RSV. And I'm like, wash your hands, gargle, gargle, gargle with the strongest mouthwash that you can stand. And, use some clear mask if you can do that. So that's the presentation that I have today. It is 4:15. I wanted to save some time to ask you what is new that you can do in your business for 2026 in reaching audiences and target markets that you haven't done yet, or what are some additional things you can do to welcome and to warm up and to build that rapport with your clients or your customers. and I'm going to be taking notes and stealing your ideas.
Okay, Steph had to step out,
Okay, she did.
and Leanna has agreed that LinkedIn is a great way to grow the professional network, and also to consider following us, Disability in North Carolina, on LinkedIn. Thank
Yeah,
you.
well, that's what I was just recommending that. So yeah, that was my
Great.
response to Leanna. Yeah.
Great.
So,
Yeah, because I mean, we're finding good traction with even some of our cross-industry collaborators in being able to share the challenges they're facing in workforce, whether it's, certain skills development or hiring or any of a number of things. And building these communities is really helping bring together the right folks to start having the right conversations that they need to be having. And we kind of underestimated how powerful it would be until we started it for our consortium for apprenticeships, life science apprenticeships here this past fall. And, we're up to, a few thousand members and growing. And so people are taking that interest and noticing and wanting to learn more about what happens there. And so all of these things can be valuable tools, if you can find that right common ground.
Are you
Yeah.
located at the Kannapolis branch, or are you at UNCC campus, North Carolina?
I am in Research Triangle Park here in Raleigh
Mhm.
area.
Okay,
Durham.
okay.
Yeah, and Anne, as you were talking, I was thinking about what a benefit the clear masks are
Mhm.
to people on the spectrum who are
Yes.
neurodivergent, how important it is to have nonverbal communication that's clear, so that individuals who are on the spectrum can read your body language and see your facial expression. We
Yeah.
recently did some training with the Charlotte Mecklenburg Library out in Mint Hill, and we are looking forward to the possibility of doing more training with the libraries around customer service and inclusion of people with disabilities. And that was such a big thing relative to making people more comfortable as they come in to use public facilities, but have, possible a different approach to communication and understanding communication.
Yeah, Patricia, that's an excellent point because we're starting to look at biowork, which is our biomanufacturing training that we do through communication, or sorry, to community. Yeah, I can't speak today. Community colleges, and we are starting to look at neurodivergent programs, and something like this could indeed be an asset and an enabler, from making students again feel comfortable with what they're encountering, because it is a bit daunting to come into, coursework even. So that's another avenue.
Yeah. Well, Beth and I would be happy to hit the road and come your way and offer up some interactive training with you.
Noted.
absolutely. Steve, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Sorry, I was looking for the mute button. Happy New Year. Sorry, I was getting a Dear John letter from a vendor or from a potential prospect when I was late.
No.
So yeah, they
Oh.
the old we love you, but we can't put in more vendors. What do you do? So
Yeah.
You come to something like this where you'll be supported
exactly. Well,
and celebrated.
I'm not always smart. I'm a small business that only goes after big businesses. So you take some licks with that, but at the same time, it's about the long game. So you build the relationships and then it comes. So
It's so true. Well, and Leanna, I love your comment about LinkedIn and kind of that connector. And that's kind of what I want this B2B community to be as well, right? On a much smaller scale, obviously. But, one of the things, and I think about this from a personal perspective, is as a person with a disability, right, that has spent time in the professional world, you think about, and I know, and you've had some of this experience too, as you market your products to different communities. you found a lot of deaf or hard of hearing dentists or, professionals that are out there that are deaf and are leveraging this product in a way that helps them, right, in their day to day. And, I love to see that. And, there is such a need, I think, for building community among professionals, right, with disabilities. And so that's really something that I would love to see LinkedIn and other communities like that build out more. We do a lot of one-offs, a lot of mentoring. I just talked to a young gal who's studying for the bar. She's got low vision like I do. And there's such power that comes from walking up alongside each other. And I think professional networks is something that gosh, we really need professional networks that include, right, and that are specially designed to create community and conversation among professionals with disabilities. So.
Absolutely, because what that does is that lifts people with disabilities out of poverty. So there's an association of medical providers with hearing loss known as AMPL, deaf doctors, deaf surgeons, deaf pediatricians, deaf veterinarian, deaf dentist, deaf dental hygienist. And they are all doing these things, and they're young and they are full of energy, and they're not taking no for an answer and building this up. In fact, I pulled together an all deaf dentist and dental hygiene team, and we're putting together a learning curriculum for the American Academy of Developmental Medicine and Dentistry. And we are all deaf, and we're laying out these learning objectives and taking away, and we're pushing that out there because you want to diversify the workforce. And this is not a handout, this is a hand up. It is opening that door. So when I go around and talk, a young deaf, you want to be a dentist? Do you want to be a nurse? We got deaf nurses and things like that. And I had a deaf pediatrician for my own children, and here's why. Because she didn't hear, I knew she was very, very observant with her eyes, and she would see things that normal sighted, normal hearing medical providers didn't see. That was very, very important to me because I couldn't hear, and I wanted to make sure, that my kids were healthy. So people with disabilities have a way, they have been problem solvers since day one of their disability, whether they grew up with it, whether they were born with it, or whatever. And we can really capitalize on that. So for me, it's not a point of weakness. It really is a point of strength. Why do we have a telephone? Because Dr. Alexander Graham Bell wanted to help deaf people. Why do we have the internet? Because Dr. Benton Cerf, who was hard of hearing, wanted to level the playing field. Why do we have Morse code? Because Dr. Samuel F. Morse wanted to help out his deaf wife. I mean, all these things that we enjoy in communication have roots in deafness. This is important, and this is how this innovation works. So to really improve the quality of life, we've got to include people with disabilities. They're the ones that have the answers and the resources to do that.
And I'm so glad you brought up those innovators and those leaders, because one of the things that Beth and I have done in the past and will do in the future is done different events where we showcase the history and the leadership of professionals who have disabilities. If anybody's listening and wants to partner up with us on sponsoring an event like that, be it virtual or in person, we would love to be connected with you to pull that off, because these stories need to get told. They just need to get out there.
Well, it's so true. And what have they always said? I know my mom used to say it, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And that's, now today we call that innovation, right? But that's what it is. You figure it out, you find a way. And if a solution is not out there, we're constantly finding new ways to solve for problems, because you have to, right? We say it all the time. This world wasn't designed for people with disabilities, but yet we have to find our way, and we have to find solutions. And that's always, a solution that's going to help not just that person, but others. So, Anne, thank you so much for just shedding so much of your wisdom and experience on today's presentation and sharing that with all of us. And I want to invite you all as well to watch for our next B2B. It is scheduled for February 11th. Am I right about that?
That is correct.
Okay. And Dr. Kirk Adams will be joining us. And he is founder and CEO of Creating, his topic will be Creating Inclusive Workplaces. And he is founder and CEO of Innovative Impact. And so just watch for that. He's a great friend, partner. He's also actually a person with low vision or blindness as well. So I'm really hitting him up to share some of his lived experience as well. So again, look forward to seeing everybody on February 11th, and have a great rest of your day. And again, if there's anything we can do for you, please reach out to us, and let's talk about what we can do together in 2026. Thank you all.